I do want to again start with first things first. We have a good idea of now what this game's about. Now, how did we get started? And I don't know how much time you have left, Robin. But if you wanna lead in that, I know you were a latecomer guy, but if you wanna start, and then the rest of you guys can follow on how exactly you guys got started, the work involved, and even coming up with the design and concept of everything. Let's start there.
Sounds good. Thank you again for the opportunity. And I hope I don't did everyone a disservice by starting first. I'll try to represent us in the best light possible. So when I was first hear about the idea from Chris, it was again during COVID time, and my desire to be connecting with people, my desire to get projects, work on exciting projects. That was not fulfilled at the time. And then Chris reached out to me that, hey, we have a game. There are years in making. It was created by me and my best friends. And it would be really cool if you could, help us bring this thing from just a concept into the real production pieces. And that was my bread and butter. Like, I love manufacturing. So I decided to initially just helping a friend out. And then, you mentioned something that's really, really powerful, which is, 3 years ago, this podcast, was not, there was no tale of, I am going to budget like this particular
there
podcast.
Was no ToV podcast. There was,
yes.
Yeah.
It shows us the power of the time, right? How we started out working on the project. It was one project, but then over time it evolved into something completely different. So the game that I initially helped them working on has evolved and constantly changed. And then eventually, when we received those tiles, the source tiles, and everyone had their mind blown, and that's when the idea of source came about. We started out our journey to revive our favorite game, HeroScape, but we hold these tiles in our hand, and we are like, what is this? This is the most powerful tool we have. They're building blocks for many, many things to come. It's like a gateway. It's like a key to like a world with infinite amount of terrains, maps. It's gonna empower so many people to bring their imagination to their own tabletop. And that's when like my mind also got blown too. I was like, well, if I'm just working on one game, that's it's an exciting project, but once I finish the project, it's over. But if I'm working on something that is a tool that enables so many people, so many others, then that's way more powerful. It's way more impactful, way more powerful, and that's something I can get behind. And that's when I asked to be like, hey, how can I get involved with the team? And I'm really excited, and I want to be part of this excited team to fulfill this mission for others. And I've initially, when I joined the team, I only know Chris because we worked together on many projects before. And then gradually, I get to learn. I get to meet Nick. I get to meet Tony. I get to meet Bob. I get to meet Hannah, and then get to meet the whole team. It's definitely a very life-changing experience because it bring us closer. It also made me aware of who I am, and I have grown a very a better person, a better engineer throughout the whole journey. I do have a hard stop, unfortunately now. So hopefully that's a good overview of my role on the team and how I started. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with us, to hear about our stories, and I'll continue to, just feel free to reach out. I do have to pass the mic to the rest of my teams.
For sure, Robin, and we appreciate you coming on, even for limited time you have. And even though I've only started talking to you in like the last hour, I think I feel a connection with you. I can relate with you a lot. And you seem like a great guy, very enthusiastic, very involved in this. So I hope we get to talk sometime in the future. But it was lovely meeting you, sir.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Have a good rest of the podcast.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you, Robin.
All right. So that was Robin's take. Now, when it comes to at the very, very beginning. I mean, when it came to, figuring out the lore, the game design, how did that all start? When did the idea just spark? Did it came from like Robin was saying, from the love of HeroScape and wanted to try to do something similar, and then it just evolved into something a little bit different or more unique? Or how did that begin?
Yeah, so I could take this one. I think that more than it began with, I'd like to bring a game to life. It started with, I'd like my life to be more of an adventure. I think that was actually the first idea. The first idea was I looked out at the sort of products and the industry that I was working in, and it wasn't really exciting me anymore. I wanted to build products that people loved, and I wanted to do it with people that I loved. And I guess in a way, as a founder of this, we all got together and just decided we kind of wanted our lives to be an adventure instead. And so how could we start to do that? Then for me, the question was, okay, what are the things I love the most? And I was like, okay, well, I thought of my two friends, Nick and Tony, right? And I've always wanted to build a game company with them. I said, if there's anyone in the world I'd build it with, it was going to be these two, because they have the gaming mind that I kind of lack. And so then I thought, okay, well, what are my favorite games, right? I thought back to all the things that I love the most. And, there was a moment where we were thinking, should it be digital? Should it be physical? What kind of game do we really want to build? But as Robin mentioned, it was right around the pandemic, and we were just craving face-to-face. We were craving that sort of intimate, sit around your table with your friends and your family kind of experience. And honestly, all my favorite memories growing up were that, sitting around a table with friends and family. And so then, I thought back to HeroScape, and I thought about all the times I kind of was in my basement with my cousin playing for like 16 hours on end, just nonstop, game after game after game. And it had been gone at that point for close to 12 years. And so in the absence of that game being around and, having tried so hard to collect it and, piece all the parts together and continue to play, how prohibitively expensive that was, that just kind of seemed like a good place to start. And so the first thing I did was, of course, I took Nick and Tony out. We went out to dinner. I think we were eating crab. It was for my birthday. And I basically said, let's do it. Let's build a board game. Why not? That's kind of where the first conversation started. And then I was working in Boston at the time, and a good friend of mine is an MIT engineer and also a board gamer. And I mentioned to him I wanted to build something, and I kind of gave him the rough shape of the idea and asked if he could get involved. He's not on the call today, but maybe we'll be on the next time we get together. But sure. So his name is Brian Wanick, and Brian Wanick ended up being sort of the mind, and him and I co-invented Source from there. So that was kind of like the earliest, and that was my motivation, at least. I wanted my life to be an adventure. I wanted to do it with people I loved. The thing I remembered loving the most and created the best memories happened to be a three-dimensional modular board game that was kind of a war game. And we just started from there. Now, we knew it had to be its own thing, even though we felt like, there was probably opportunity to do something really, really similar to HeroScape. I don't think that would have ultimately satisfied any of us. We had to really look at what existed before and innovate. Otherwise, why create something? Why create something if it's not new? Why create something if it's not better? And so, we started from that as a source of inspiration, no pun intended. Sure. And then it just completely evolved. So day in and day out for years from that point forward, we'd continually discuss every single night. We'd iterate on the design. We'd prototype. We'd go back to manufacturing until ultimately we got here.
Yeah, I just want to chime in on that. And before Chris started talking, I was going to say it all started with snow crab. And that's basically where it all happened. We got an invite. Anthony and I went and we met with him. And like he said, he was just like, I want to build a board game. And I remember coming home and telling my wife that night, and she's like, you're gonna build a board game. Where is this coming from? And I'm like, well, I like games. And that was kind of it. And Chris, if you learn something about his enthusiasm and his vigor are just absolutely intoxicating. So everybody he's around, I think that goes for a lot of the team members. We really push each other, and we really have a lot of excitement within us. But I was sold. I was like, cool, we're building a board game, and we never looked back. And our vision, of course, we adapted consistently. It was, at first we were like, well, let's build a game. And then it became, well, let's build a tabletop system. And then it kept expanding. Well, how do we make that tabletop system more accessible? And then open source came in, and this is what I was talking about earlier in the call, is we never put boundaries around ourselves. We never said this is what the industry is doing and we stopped. We said, why are they only doing this? And we're listening to the community, and that's why we're called Adventure Together. This is not Chris, Bob, Anthony, and Nick company. This is an adventure for all of us. This is for the tabletop community. This is where we're going to listen. We fully expect that the best games that are developed and designed for Source are not going to come from us. They're going to come from somebody who has a completely different vision for these tiles and hexes that we do. And that's something, I mean, it goes back to the 90s and the early 2000s. You had Warcraft 3, it was open source. Now you have League of Legends. Where was League of Legends built? In Warcraft 3 open source. Why not do it for tabletop games? Why not make something that everyone can share with one another and everybody can go on an adventure together? And that's what we went through. That's what we want to share with everyone. And many times we've called TimeStrike and Source our love letter to the community. This was not developed in a rush. This was developed with love. This was developed with research. This was developed with this was us sitting there getting frustrated at each other, making tough decisions. Tony and Chris screaming about a game mechanic that we don't even have anymore because it was so important at the time. That is what has happened, and we've all grown together because of that. And that's something that Robin talked about as well, is it's just brought us close together. We found where we're strong. We found where we're weak, and we push each other up. And it's the same with the community. They have lifted us up. They have made us what we are today, and we're going to continue serving them for the entirety of Adventure Together.
I think
you'll find a lot of love put into everything we do. It really is true. To be as inspirational as Imharo, I probably won't be able to be. But there's a lot of love, and you'll see that we're not just building it for ourselves. We're building it with you guys, and we hope that will be the case the whole way through. I won't share more, but Himaro's right. Inspirational. Good job.
It intrigues me a little bit when you say about community involvement and creating something more than what you guys are thinking of, and it kind of blows my mind a little bit, thinking, what are you talking about? I mean, don't you guys have creative control? It's like, no, you're basically saying the community has creative control. That's different. That is something unique. I can't even wrap my head around that. Like I said, I need to read a rule book. I need to read
I'd like to add as well that, while the game HeroScape was inspiring to us, of course, I think what was way more inspiring to me personally was the community that refused to let that game go away. That said, nope, we're going to keep this alive, and not only that, we're going to push it further, right? You had C3G, you had all these offshoots and all these customs projects, and so that was the thing that most inspired me when I thought, well, where do I want to build? Well, I want to build in a space where the community is the most vibrant and alive, and what better example of that than the HeroScape community? So that, the games is what it is. The community is really the heart of what drives it, and so that's really why when we built our company and we built Source and we decided to make it an open source thing, it's like, that community, all the players, was the most inspiring part, and it still is to this day. I mean, it is the lifeblood of the HeroScape community, and we hope someday to have even kind of close to that level of passion behind the Source community.
And I just hope it expands for you guys too. So it's an awesome way of seeing how it got started and how you guys are still keeping your enthusiasm over the years. And I sincerely hope in the many years to come as well.